Welcome to Revlog, where Aaron gives Bryan second chances.
Always.
And
I am
Bryan,
so grateful.
Always.
he asks the hard-hitting questions. So thank you, sir.
Finally.
Yeah.
Finally.
And it's not even Thursday yet.
Yeah.
So grateful for that. Well, today we're in 2 Samuel 6. It's a wonderful chapter of
Yes.
David's expression. So Aaron, let's jump right into this with castanets and all. So
That's great.
so help us. What initial thoughts on 2 Samuel 6?
Well, there's several things to look at, and I'll probably come back to this when we ask the questions. But my observations first about unfiltered worship. Before we get there.
Unfiltered worship. I
Yep.
like where this is going.
Yeah.
Good.
Firstly, God's holiness is not to be trifled with.
Right.
That we saw the punishment of that it was extreme and it was very severe and quick.
Mm-hmm.
That you mess with God's holiness and he was killed on the spot, and then it made David run in fear.
Yeah.
But we see initially that the ark is presented and there's great celebration.
Yeah.
And then this punishment comes, and so he hides it away. And then David sees that the community where he hid it was getting blessed, and so he brought it back. And so just this idea of this fear and reverence and you're almost scared of God's presence, and yet when you're in the middle of it, it is you just can't help but praise.
Yeah,
It's-
unfiltered.
yeah.
That's right. That's good. Bryan, your initial thoughts on 2 Samuel 6?
Well, I hate to bring a
Uh-oh.
negative tone to this, Aaron,
Come on.
but I'm gonna jump right out there. When I read this, it looks to me like a peak and a valley, and like there's two narratives going on here. There's this public participatory celebration and worship, and it seems that privately they're unprepared for.
Explain what you mean by that.
Well, what I mean is there's all this enthusiasm, and yet there's unsustainability. When you read what happens after that, David is flummoxed. He is, how can the Ark of God ever come to me? It's sort of like he convened this after-action committee, and they did this report. What's going on here? I wonder if David was, and again, I don't mean to cast aspersions here, but if he was, he danced before the Lord with all his might and so forth, and there was this, who was paying attention to how things were being done? I think churches can get into this fervor, and everything looks great, and then at the margins, or sometimes at the core, there's some darkness that sort of grows, and even our own denomination has been through that.
And I think David was even in a dark place here. I mean, doesn't it say here in our text that David was angry with the Lord?
Yes.
Yeah. And verse 8, David becomes angry with the Lord.
It's as if he was slapped into reality, and he's all of a sudden going, things are not what I thought they were.
Yeah, that's right. So let's move to the questions of the text. Aaron, what questions did you have of the text?
So the first question I had, do you think Michael was mad because he was not a good dancer? Or because it was beneath the dignity of a king? I mean, Bryan, was
he a good dancer?
I think that any YouTube video of David will show that he had all the right moves. All the right moves.
So I might have another question.
Okay, what's your other question?
Just the idea of what would happen if we would come and we would see somebody with that kind of joy before the Lord.
Right.
I think we'd become uncomfortable. I think we would be more like Michael than David, because when we like everything, even in our robust expressions, we tend to have some reservation. And David's response to Michael was not kind. And so
that's right.
The idea that when we experience the Lord, it needs to be unfiltered. It needs to be just so joy-filled.
Well, and hopefully we have these moments of joy-filled worship in our life. I think they're sustaining. I think that's
absolutely. And there was no question but that David instructs us on our worship. There's no question about that. I mean, you can read the Psalms, you can look at his own life and so forth. But I do have a question. And
tell your question.
That is, what was the source of the bad blood between David and his wife? Was there something going on off camera, as it were. I mean, she looked at him. Was this the first time, or was this just an excuse to further the animosity there? I don't know. I mean, is this more of the peak in the valley? You know, the peak, and then back home, things are not so good on the home front, enthusiasm and unsustainability. How many times have we been so involved in God's work, and yet things that we need to be paying attention to are not, holding together? And David, on the home front, doesn't have that great of a track record.
That's a good
anyway.
point.
And again, I hate to be.
I love that idea,
down.
though, that the infrastructure has to be there.
Absolutely.
So if the infrastructure were there, that whole tragedy and the anger of David towards God would not have happened.
Absolutely.
If this infrastructure at home would have been there,
Yes.
the need for 40 wives probably wouldn't be there as well.
My word.
That's another.
That's a whole
blog.
nother conversation. Yeah, that's right. Well, help us answer these questions. Please comment below and give us your thoughts on these questions that Bryan and Aaron have raised for us today. Thank you.